Welcome back, everyone, to Complete Aviation Solutions. It's time for Deep Dive number 41.
Deep dive number 41.
And today we're going to be looking at, some more recent developments in the aviation industry. We've got a pretty good mix, it seems like.
Yeah.
Partnerships, route expansions, upgrades, the usual fun stuff.
The things that make aviation exciting.
Exactly. And you've shared some excellent sources with us. So our mission today is to, go through them and try to extract the most interesting, the most relevant insights. You know what's going to impact you, the listener, as you plan your, future trips.
And also just, kind of the big picture trends, right? It's not just about, okay, this airline added this flight or whatever. What does it actually tell us about where the industry is headed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are the big strategic choices that these companies are making? Okay, well, let's jump right in. I guess one of the things that caught my eye was this, evolving partnership, I guess you could say, between Emirates and Trip.com. Now, we know they've collaborated before.
Right.
But this seems to be like a real step up.
Yeah, it's a deepening of the relationship.
In their ambitions together.
Yeah.
What do you see as the core shift here?
So, it's interesting because initially their partnership really focused on China, and then it kind of expanded to wider Asia. But this new phase that they're talking about is truly global. They want to reach new markets, new customer segments worldwide. And I think this is really significant because it speaks to the way that they're leveraging each other's strengths. So Emirates, of course, has this incredible global network. Trip.com has a massive user base.
Yeah.
And by coming together, they can really penetrate the market in a much more comprehensive way.
I see. It's almost like, Emirates is providing the global highways.
Exactly.
And then Trip.com is, bringing all that traffic.
Yeah. Yeah. And it saves Trip.com the hassle of having to build that infrastructure themselves.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. So what are some of the specific areas that they're going to be really working on together in this expanded partnership?
So a couple of key things stand out to me. First of all, they're looking at coordinated promotions. And specifically, they mentioned both Asian and European markets.
Okay.
So those are clearly areas where they see a lot of potential for growth. Another thing that's really interesting is that they're talking about deeply integrating Emirates flight offerings with Trip.com's wider suite of travel services. So think hotels, other travel components.
Right.
And the idea here is that they can create this much smoother booking experience for the customer.
Sure.
So
you can book everything in one place.
Everything in one place. And, potentially that boosts conversion rates.
Makes sense. Yeah, it takes away the hassle factor.
Absolutely.
Now, it also sounds like they're thinking about different types of travelers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're talking about tailoring promotions to specific segments. For example, families, holiday seekers.
Okay.
And this is smart because it allows them to target their marketing more effectively, come up with offers that really resonate with those particular groups.
You get the right offer in front of the right person at the right time.
Exactly. And then beyond that, they're also going to be running these joint campaigns to really aggressively grow their presence in key global markets. So it's not just about, kind of passively cooperating. They're really pushing to expand together.
Interesting. Now, here's something that I think could be very relevant for a lot of our listeners.
Yeah.
They're also exploring the idea of integrating their loyalty programs.
Yes, that's huge.
Right. So Trip.com rewards and Emirates Skywards.
Yeah.
What could that look like?
So, obviously the specifics are still being worked out. But you can imagine a scenario where you're earning points faster. Maybe you're getting access to exclusive perks, things like that. And that's really valuable because it incentivizes loyalty to both platforms.
Yeah, if you're someone who flies Emirates a lot,
right,
and you also book a lot of your travel through Trip.com,
right,
you're getting a double benefit there.
Yeah, you're getting a lot more value.
Yeah. Now, what about other customer segments? I mean, are they focusing on anyone else in particular?
Yeah, so they're also talking about, really going after students, youth travelers, even cruise customers.
Okay.
So, it's a very comprehensive approach. They're trying to capture a really wide spectrum of potential travelers. And then another little detail that I thought was interesting is they mentioned that Emirates will now offer its chauffeur drive service through the Trip.com platform.
That's a nice perk.
Yeah. So, if you're looking for that little bit of extra convenience, you can book it right there along with your flight and your hotel and everything else.
Yeah, very nice. Now, it seems like this expanded partnership is also coinciding with Emirates really beefing up its presence in Asia in particular.
Yes.
What are some of the new routes that they're adding?
So lots of expansion happening. They've announced daily nonstop flights between Dubai and Shenzhen in China. They're adding 4 weekly services to Da Nang in Vietnam and 3 weekly flights to Siem Reap in Cambodia.
Wow. So they're really increasing that connectivity
Yeah,
to that region. Clearly, they see a lot of potential there.
they do. And it's important to note that Emirates already flies to 24 points across East Asia,
Okay.
which makes them the largest network for any non-Asian carrier in that part of the world. So this is really just building on that existing strength.
Impressive. All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit geographically. We're going to move over to Southeast Asia and Australia.
Okay.
And Malaysia's Batik Air is also expanding. They've got a new route to Melbourne. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So they're introducing year-round flights between Melbourne and Kuala Lumpur. And this is a big deal because it adds a lot of capacity to that route.
Okay.
They're going to be operating 4 times a week using a pretty big aircraft.
Okay.
An Airbus A330-300, which seats 377 passengers. And this is really interesting because it comes on top of their existing daily flights between Melbourne and Bali. So it really shows that they're committed to the Australian market.
Yeah. More options is always a good thing for travelers.
Yeah.
And I understand that Kuala Lumpur is a pretty significant
Yeah.
connecting point, particularly for people traveling onto certain regions. Where are people typically going from there?
So Kuala Lumpur is a really important transit hub, especially if you're heading to India
Okay.
or other parts of Southeast Asia.
Okay.
So, this new service from Melbourne is going to make those connections a lot smoother for passengers.
Makes sense. And Melbourne Airport seems pretty optimistic about this new service. What are they saying?
They're very positive about it. They say it's going to provide more choice for travelers. They specifically mention international students and visitors.
Sure.
And they also highlighted the fact that this is going to make the Melbourne-Kuala Lumpur route more competitive.
Yeah.
Because now you've got 3 airline groups offering year-round service. So that's always good for consumers.
Right. Competition drives down prices, hopefully, improves service. Now, what about Batik Air itself? They're considered a premium carrier, right?
Yeah, that's their positioning. They serve over 70 destinations across India and Southeast Asia.
Okay.
So they've got a pretty extensive network.
All right. Well, let's fly over to the Middle East now, where Etihad Airways is increasing its service to Moscow. What's behind this expansion?
So starting October 1st, Etihad is going to be adding a 3rd daily flight between Abu Dhabi and Moscow Sheremetyevo Airport. So that brings their total weekly service up to 21 flights.
Wow. So that's a pretty significant increase.
It is, and it really underscores the growing demand for travel between the Middle East and Russia.
Makes sense.
And the main goal here is to improve connectivity and provide better onward connections
Okay.
for Russian travelers. And they're particularly targeting destinations in the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, and Australia.
I see. So Abu Dhabi is becoming a bit of a gateway for Russian passengers
Exactly.
heading to those parts of the world.
Yeah.
And is the timing of these additional flights
Yeah.
significant in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. So they've scheduled these triple daily flights to accommodate both business and leisure travelers. So you've got options throughout the day,
Okay.
which is great for flexibility.
Very nice. And Etihad also has more expansion plans in Russia in the works, don't they?
They do. So for 2025, they've announced new routes, including flights to Sochi, which is a popular resort city in Russia.
Oh.
Those flights are starting in late May. So again, it really shows that they're committed to the Russian market.
Interesting. Lots of expansion happening.
Right.
All right, well, let's head down to Africa now, where Ethiopian Airlines is boosting its service to Singapore. What's the thinking behind this increase?
So from July 4th, 2025, Ethiopian is going to launch its 5th weekly direct flight between Singapore and Addis Ababa.
Okay.
And this is directly tied to the growing demand for trade, tourism, investment
Sure.
between Asia and Africa. So Singapore, of course, is this major hub for accessing other parts of Asia.
Right.
And then Addis Ababa is that gateway to Africa.
Yeah, and Ethiopia itself is often referred to as a gateway to Africa. What makes it such a key hub?
Well, Ethiopia has this incredible history.
Yeah.
And its economy is growing very rapidly. So
Yeah.
it's becoming a really important point of connection between Asia and Africa.
Makes sense. And this expansion to Singapore,
Yeah.
I mean, does this fit into Ethiopian Airlines' broader growth strategy for the Asia-Pacific region?
Absolutely. So this increased frequency to Singapore is part of a broader strategy to really expand their presence in the Asia-Pacific market. And this is on top of their existing network of over 130 destinations worldwide.
So we're seeing all this these physical expansions in terms of routes and frequencies.
Right.
But the digital side of aviation is also really evolving quickly.
Mhm.
And a good example of this is Cathay Pacific adopting this new MRO software.
Yeah.
What's the significance of this?
So this is a big deal because it represents a major step in the digital transformation of Cathay Pacific's engineering department. So they've chosen this EMRO solution from a company called Trax.
Okay.
And EMRO stands for Electronic Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul.
Okay.
So it's not just about going paperless. It's about creating this real-time, data-driven maintenance ecosystem.
Interesting.
The agreement includes, cloud hosting, mobile applications for things like document management, visual inspections, task control.
Right. So it's a whole suite of tools.
It is.
Yeah. What are some of the key advantages that Cathay Pacific is hoping to gain from this?
So one of the big things is instant access to critical operational data. So that allows for much faster, more informed decision-making. Moving to a paperless environment also reduces the risk of errors.
Yeah.
Those manual record-keeping errors.
Right.
And it also means that it's easier to access those crucial maintenance logs
Right.
across different teams and locations. So, it really improves coordination, increases productivity. Ultimately, it leads to greater operational efficiency.
It's about getting the right information to the right people at the right time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, safety, of course, is paramount in aviation. So how does this play into that?
So by modernizing their maintenance operations with these digital tools, Cathay Pacific expects to see a significant improvement in safety and operational reliability. Because, having accurate and readily available maintenance records is crucial for regulatory compliance.
Right.
And also just for making sure that aircraft are maintained to the highest standard.
Of course.
And beyond that, the digital transformation is also about improving customer centricity and fostering innovation. The ultimate goal here is for Cathay Pacific to become a digital leader in the airline industry.
All right. Well, finally, we also have some insights from an SSP report.
Yes.
And this report is looking at some of the broader trends impacting travel. So what are some of the key shifts that they've identified?
So this report is really interesting because it breaks things down into 3 tiers. You've got these macro shifts, which are those big overarching forces.
Okay.
You've got megatrends, which are things that are influencing consumer desires.
Okay.
And then you've got current travel behaviors, which are, what people are actually doing right now.
Okay. So it's a pretty comprehensive view.
It is.
Yeah. So let's start with those macro shifts. What are some of the big forces shaping the world right now?
So they highlight geopolitical factors, which obviously have a huge impact on travel patterns and restrictions. Then there are those demographic and societal shifts,
Right.
things like aging populations, changing lifestyles.
Yeah.
Those are all playing a role. And then very importantly, you have environmental trends related to sustainability and climate change.
Yeah, those are definitely some big forces with some far-reaching consequences.
Yeah.
Now, what about those mega trends? What are some of the things that are shaping what travelers are looking for?
So they identified a few key things. One is that travelers are increasingly seeking new multi-sensory experiences.
Okay.
It's not just about going somewhere and seeing it, it's about really engaging with it.
Okay.
There's also a huge demand for digital technologies that simplify and expedite the travel process.
Right. Everyone wants to make it easier.
Exactly. However, there's also this need for reassurance that those digital advancements aren't going to come at the expense of human interaction.
So you still want that personal touch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Health is also viewed holistically these days. So travelers want healthier food options, but they also want to be able to indulge.
Of course.
Value for money is also really important,
Sure.
especially with all the economic uncertainty we've got.
Makes sense.
And then there's a growing awareness of the environmental and social impact of travel choices.
Okay.
So travelers are looking for brands that align with their values.
Yeah. It seems like travelers are becoming much more discerning.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're more demanding.
Yeah. Now, what about those current travel behaviors? What are some of the things that people are actually doing right now?
So one interesting observation is that leisure travel is often now prioritized over business travel.
Okay.
We're also seeing more of these bleisure trips, so people combining work and leisure travel.
Right.
And then another thing is that more trips are being planned outside of those traditional peak holiday seasons.
I see.
And, that could be driven by a desire for fewer crowds or, maybe to find better deals.
Right. And that shift away from traditional travel patterns, that
Yeah.
could have big implications for the industry.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did the report say anything about the speed at which these trends are evolving?
Yeah, they made a really interesting point about that. They said the pace of trend emergence has accelerated significantly in the post-COVID world.
So things are changing really quickly.
Very quickly, and that means that companies need to be much more agile.
Right.
They need to adapt
Yeah.
if they want to keep up.
So it seems like adaptability is the key takeaway across all these different developments.
I think so.
Whether it's airlines forming these new partnerships, expanding routes, or embracing those digital solutions.
Right. It's all about adapting to this evolving landscape.
And of course, understanding, what travelers want
Yeah,
is a huge part of that.
absolutely.
So, as we've seen today, the aviation landscape is really dynamic right now. Airlines are making these strategic choices.
Yeah,
They're expanding their global reach, they're leveraging technology, and they're doing all this to enhance their operations and hopefully improve your experience as a passenger. We've talked about Emirates' partnership with Trip.com,
right,
Batik Air, increasing connectivity to Australia and Southeast Asia,
right.
Etihad's growing presence in Russia,
Yeah,
Ethiopian Airlines' strengthened links between Asia and Africa,
yeah,
and then Cathay Pacific investing in those digital maintenance solutions.
right.
You know, all of this against the backdrop of these broader trends that we talked about from the SSP report.
Absolutely.
Clearly, the industry is focused on growth, on efficiency, on meeting your needs as a traveler.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what resonates most with you? Is it the increasing ease of connecting between continents?
Hmm.
Or maybe it's the way that technology is making air travel safer and more efficient.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's worth thinking about how these trends might shape your future travel plans and the future of aviation as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's an exciting time to be following this industry.
It certainly is. All right, well, that's it for Deep Dive number 41. 41. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Yes,